Hi guys, so behind me here is the car that many traditional BMW purists like to bash, and I'm of course talking about the 2 Series Gran Coupe. So in Malaysia, the 2 Series Gran Coupe comes exclusively in one variant, which is the 218i M Sport, priced at about 218,000 ringgit. It's a bit more expensive than the previous generation F30 318i that ran the same engine, which is the 1.5 liter B38 3-cylinder turbo engine that made 140 horsepower, 220 newton meters of torque. But the difference between this and the 318i is that the engine drives not the rear wheels but the front wheels.
About 500 bucks.
You save about 1,000 plus.
To work out cheaper for me.
4,000.
215, even more.
It's for 200 plus.
400 bucks of savings. So here in the engine bay of the 2 Series Gran Coupe, firstly, you see the engine sits transversely in an east-west orientation as opposed to old school BMWs that sits lengthwise, longitudinally. This is the engine. It's offset to the right. I would presume the transmission is down here. Here is the positive terminal of the battery, and unlike the rear-wheel driven BMWs, this one here puts the battery in the front. It's inside here, but you can see BMW has taken great care to put all these heat insulation materials to give the battery better protection from the engine bay's heat. And not only that, if you peek in through here, you can see that is the ABS and ESC module that is tucked furthest away possible from the engine, completely shielded. That is very good because these are the parts, the electronics are most likely to be damaged by heat. Isolating them away in this section, to me, is a very, very good piece of design and engineering on BMW's part. So I applaud them for that. This is one piece of the engine mounting at the side here. All right, and you can see even with this 1.5 liter 3-cylinder engine, this is a very, very compact engine bay. There isn't much in terms of free space available as you may expect. This engine bay is obviously designed to take nothing bigger than at most a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that you would see in some of the higher powered models available overseas. So here you can see these are cooling fins, all right, for the headlights. And you know, these nowadays modern headlights, besides being very bright, they also radiate a lot of heat. So the heat dispersal for these headlights are very important, and hence all these cooling fins here are provided. So besides the full M Sport exterior trim, this particular example of the 218i Gran Coupe also has some optional M Performance parts thrown in. So you can see the side mirror here, for example, has carbon fiber housing. All right, you also have this ducktail spoiler at the back, and the diffuser is more pronounced, and also plus that exhaust tip is much larger than what one would expect from this performance bracket. So they have LED headlamps here, gloss black treatment on the grille, on the bumper, all right, and also the door frames. So a typical M Sport design cue from BMW, the door frames is colored in black. A non-M Sport car would have it in chrome or in silver. Right here, this vent here is also colored in black. The alloy wheels, 18 inches, 225/40 sizes, front and rear tires. From the outside, this car is really dressed all right, with the best possible external exterior trim that BMW has available for this car. All right, the question of course is, does this car actually properly carry an aura or a stance of sportiness? So we start with the front end. Now this front end, you may see the kidney grille there, you may see the headlight design is lighting signature is a familiar BMW, you know, design language, but something is not quite familiar about this. Something is rather unusual about this, because you see the 2 Series Gran Coupe, this is the first 4-door BMW to have transverse engine orientation with front wheel drive, and it shows, because you see the typical rear wheel drive BMW with its longitudinal engine installation, this length here would be longer. Why? Because when the engine sits longitudinally, it needs more space in this part of the car. So as a result, the cabin will be pushed further back from the front axle to give that space to the engine. But with transverse installation, you don't need that. So you can shorten this distance and allow you to have a shorter steering column. And also with a transverse engine installation, don't forget much of the cooling system and all the ancillaries are mounted here. So as a result, the frontal overhangs are also longer. And that's why you can see, in a way, if you look at it from top down, this nose is in a way sharper than the regular BMWs. Most BMWs would have a much flatter front, where this angle is not as pronounced. I don't know how this can be interpreted as a Hofmeister king, but that's what they say it is. So of course, the 2 Series Gran Coupe, frameless doors. Now come to the back. So they've given the tail lights a bit of a 3D effect. So this is the tail lighting signature. It pops out a little at night when you light it up. And now this angle is where it's worthy of debate. So this is obviously BMW's current styling direction for its coupe family. You can see this in the X4, the X6, the 8 Series, and the 4 Series as well, where the taillights sit higher than the number plate. So it's a bit of a 2-layered design. But whereas in the higher segment models, the number plates sit at the bumper, here the number plate sits back at the tailgate. And overall, this stacking of layers contribute further to the impression that this car proportionally is tall. And when you have tall, it does not equate to sporty. But see, the thing is that when you want to give a car a sporty image, you want to give it visual width. So you want to make the car look as wide as possible. But when you stack the layers of design like this, it makes the car look taller than it is wide. Check out the boot. Now I like the fact that you just pop it and the spring is judged nicely enough to push the whole boot up. So it's a decently sized boot, okay? And you open under here, there's a hidden compartment in there for you to stow away other items. It's not level adjustable, but they have leveled the floor in a way that here there's a minimal what you call it, level. This is level, and when you fold the seats down, it's also a seamless level, so you can load long items, all right, that it will sit properly on the boot floor. So here there's another compartment here as well for you to chuck your small items. And here you can see there is a reverse camera. Let's check out the passenger compartment. So you've got touch type keyless entry on 4 doors. That is nice. It has proximity detection. So you see right now the door is unlocked. As I move away, all right, the car has locked itself. And as I bring it closer, the car self unlocks. So the door card here, well, one thing I noticed is that they try to make these lines parallel, and I have to say the utilization of this space here is good. The door pocket occupies the full length of the door. There's a speaker here, all right, and this trim pattern here does give the door a good touch of value. So you can see here, all right, you see I've put my child seat here, and I have to say, firstly, the leg room down here is good. I'm 170 centimeters tall, and well, my head's touching the roof. So, but the lean angle is good. Now, this headrest obviously needs to be raised if I want to sit here for an extended journey. But I have to say the thigh support is all right. The angle of the seat is all right, but it's a little short, so it doesn't go to all the way to the back of my knee, but only off by a little. So this car is obviously designed also with young families in mind, because the idea is that when the typical buyer of this car, their kids grow to the size of teenagers, they're expecting these buyers to eventually upsize to a 5 Series, an X5, X6, that kind of thing. The 2 Series Gran Coupe is more likely to serve the needs of younger families or bachelors. Okay, so to round it all up, you do have rear aircon vents, and you have 2 USB-C ports here. Okay, so we'll go to the front. All right, start the engine. There is a tray for wireless charging. There is a regular USB port here, molded cup holders, 12-volt socket. The bottom of the cup holder is rubberized, so if you put small items down here, you don't have to worry about them sliding about. Over here, glove box. All right, once again, this surface here is rubberized, so yeah, things wouldn't slide about. Here, well, very modestly sized compartment, but there's another USB-C port down there. And up here, well, this one is frameless. The rear view mirror is frameless, so that's a nice touch. And well, this iDrive screen is rather small, and I get the distinct impression that that the option of a slightly larger screen is presumably available. So this architecture, all right, this whole architecture here, this is familiar. We've seen this in the G23 series, we've seen this in the all the way up to the 8 series, but you can see the selection of materials is deliberately downgraded to reflect the fact that you are at the lower rung of the BMW hierarchy. Okay, but it's very obvious at the same time that they were also trying to optimize their costs across the range by using one common panel. So what it means is that they can vary the value of the things that you can see, but behind, everything is same and shared across the board. You know, this BMW thing whereby you touch the memory button, the car recognizes you touch it, and then it shows on the iDrive screen what specific function does that memory button call. And this is not necessarily radio stations. This can be used to call up any iDrive related function. Say for example, you can press 1 to set the sat nav to go home, and the car will navigate you to do so. See this panel here? Yep, this is also the same panel that you would find in the G23 series. You would find this in the X5, you will find this in every across the entire BMW range. All right, this exact same arrangement of switches. The only thing that varies is the type of material that they use. So here in the 2 series, plastic, matte plastic. All right, you go up to an X5, you go up to an 8 series, this becomes glass, crystal, you know, fancier selection of materials, but it's commonized. This is commonized, this piece is commonized, this screen is also commonized. And here, analog dials that is dressed up to resemble a digital dial. make no mistake, behind here, this is an analog gauge. This is an analog gauge. The fuel gauge and the temperature gauge are just a few LEDs in there, but they layer it to give it a sort of a 3D effect. Well, I know a few of my colleagues, Tana, Bobby, during the review of the G23 series, they didn't give a very good review of this cluster, but my personal opinion, seeing what BMW has done with their digital clusters recently, I prefer this, to be frank. But then again, I've said this once, I've said this before many times, this current generation of BMW cabins no longer possess that intuitive clarity that used to be there in previous generation BMWs. But overall, I would say, well, fit and finish is good. Actually, in recent times, BMW fit and finish has always been fantastic. The cabin panels have good fitment, feels more solid than the Mercedes A-Class. But here in this 2 Series, implementation, right, the fact that this is a cost down cabin from the fancier looking ones in the 8 Series and even the X5 and all that is very obvious from when you look at the selection of materials. So even though the assembly is good, you can't run away from the fact that one look at this, this is not the most expensive cabin that BMW has to offer. Okay, so it drives the wrong wheels. It's got half the required number of cylinders. But is the 2 Series Gran Coupe's case really beyond redemption? Now, the thing is this, BMW's journey in making front-wheel drive cars hasn't been exactly straightforward. Not after they cornered themselves with that marketing campaign of mocking other car makers for using front-wheel drive configuration. So you see, the thing is, they begin their tentative journey steps to make front-wheel drive cars first by acquiring Mini. All right, they amassed about more than a decade of experience and expertise in making front-wheel drive platforms through the Mini brand, and that has been a complete success on all fronts, because Mini is the only automotive brand out there whose appeal transcends your demographic. It doesn't matter whether you are rich, you are poor, it doesn't matter whether you are an enthusiast, whether you are a poser. There is a Mini there that fits your needs. All right, and nobody laughs at you for driving a Mini. All right, in a way that a Mini is universally likable, whether you are an enthusiast or not, and that has been brilliant. And the fact of the matter is, Minis drive well. So you see, having accumulated that expertise and that experience in making front-wheel drive platforms, and along the way, they have also discovered that majority of their consumers actually didn't care whether their BMWs are front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. It didn't matter to most of them. Okay, so the thing is, why not make a front-wheel drive BMW when majority of your buyers, the people who pay money, not the guys who shop for second used cars in Muda, but people who actually walk into BMW showrooms and put money down, are okay with it? But the thing is this, BMW is also a very tradition-driven company. So even though they've decided that it's okay to have front-wheel drive, they also did not immediately just roll it out like that. They started off by introducing a completely new model line called the Active Tourer and the Grand Tourer. But then they realized that, hey, I need to fit this into my current model naming scheme, which is entirely numbers based. So, and it conflicted with their practice of having even numbers denote sporty cars and odd numbers denoting their regular cars. So they had the active tourer, and because it sits at the lower end of their model lineup, so it's just has to be down to numbers 1 or 2, and 2 was eventually chosen to underpin what we call the 2 Series active tourer and the 2 Series Grand Tourer. Then later on, front wheel drive was then implemented on the X1, and then after that it was decided that the new generation 1 Series would also be front wheel drive, because at the end of the day, even if BMW reasoned that the likes of the 3 Series and 5 Series are still too close to their core offerings to make such a drastic change, the 1 Series, as an entry-level car, is just too expensive to make in rear-wheel drive format. Switching the 1 Series to front-wheel drive made financial sense. Okay, so then the 1 Series front-wheel drive was born, and from those same underpinnings we arrive at the 2 Series Gran Coupe. And the thing is this: BMW knows full well that this car won't appeal to their traditional customers. See, that is not the point. The point of this car, the 2 Series Gran Coupe, the X1, these cars are meant to conquest a new set of customers into the BMW brand. The very same group of customers that previously never considered BMW, previously never believed anyways that 50-50 weight distribution or 6-cylinder engines or rear-wheel drive matters to them at all. Alright, but they also get that there's that appeal to the BMW badge, and hence it made sense to stretch your product offering a little to pull these guys into the fold. Alright, and whilst at the same time core products like the 3 Series, like the 5 Series continue to follow the traditional configuration and template to cater to existing customers. Well, at least that's the theory. But what about the execution? Let's start with the engine. This 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine gets a lot of flack from enthusiasts, but personally I think it's a little undeserved, because it may not be bristling with power, but it is a willing performer. Alright, it has a good slab of mid-range torque, and it doesn't suffer from much lag in terms of its response. What I like most about it, it's that it is fast to rev. It is a happy rever. It's a peppy performer. So the thing is, even though it's not very fast, but it is very willing. So let's see, right now I'm spotting a clear stretch of road, and I'm going to gun it. Alright, so it pulls willingly all the way to 6,500 RPM, and because it's not very powerful, right, you actually get to enjoy full throttle acceleration more often. If there's any weakness to this car, weaklings to this car, the engine is not it. Okay, but that being said, the start-stop operation can be better refined, especially when the engine is restarting. The vibrations are quite severe, and it really has me concerned with the wear rate of the engine mounts. I certainly hope that the service package of this car includes periodic replacement of the engine mounts, because the kind of vibrations that this car generates every time when I stop at the traffic light and the engine restarts feels quite severe. Now, the 7-speed dual clutch transmission, in all honesty, not the best that I've ever experienced, and at the same time not quite the worst. Shifts smoothly enough on the move. But then again, overall it is a rather a competent but distinctly average transmission of its type. The suspension, now this is where it's really a bit of a mixed bag. The ride quality, I would say it's definitely more comfortable than the G20 330i. It's more comfortable than the HNR and B8 combo in my blue E39. But I would say it's less comfortable than the G20 320i non-M Sport. So I mean, for a car of this brief, where let's be frank about it, it's where the enthusiast appeal is not as great as it would be with most other BMWs. I think this definitely could do with slightly more improved comfort. All right, not saying it's stiff, it's uncomfortable, but I think there is room for improvement. The handling is all right. The car, well, this is BMW. They have all the expertise from Mini as well. They know how to tune and make a car drive well, regardless of which axle it powers. All right. So the directional changes, car chassis has good stability, good high-speed stability as well. The only thing is that the steering is very, very lacking in feedback, even by the standards of recent BMWs. You know, with the F series generation, the F10, F30 generation BMWs, we already observed that, hey, BMW's steering feel no longer is what it used to be. But this, in comparison, the steering feels even more muted. All right, you see, when I turn the steering like this, I'm seeing movements of the body, but I'm not getting any sensations filtering through the wheel. I do not know what really is going on down there until I see my turn of the steering translate to movement of the body. So is that something that that affects my judgment of the car? Yes, it does. But is that something that matters to the target market? All right, that the people that BMW are aiming this car to at the showrooms? In all honesty, I suspect not. Okay, so it's night. I'm gonna get ready to go out with my wife and daughter, and check this out. So as I approach the car, all right, look at the ground, guys. So that's the welcome lighting. So Mrs. Con is now behind the wheel, okay, and kids are strapped in at the back. Mrs. Con, how is the drive?
Okay.
Okay. Will you make me buy one?
Maybe. Well, it's better than the other cars.
The other cars meaning which cars?
The cars at home lah, because.
Really? You mean better than our two BMWs?
No, the steering is very light.
Okay.
So it's good for women.
Okay, I cannot dispute that. Although I prefer our old
But
BMW.
if it's too light, it feels like it can fly.
Yeah, there you see. Wow, okay, not bad. You got skill to be car reviewer. Next time we should do video together, wife. So whilst the missus is busy driving, we'll just show you. So the instrument cluster there. Whoa! So powerful, Mo.
Not bad.
Not bad, huh? Okay, so this is one party piece that I like. All right, the interiors. Check this out. This trim here has this hidden lighting here, and I think this is something that I would say people like Rachel would really appreciate. In her own words, this is very, very Instagrammable, they say. All right, so the center console here, orange lighting, just like in this aspect, it's just like traditional BMWs. Okay, this what you call the temperature display here, it's orange. At daytime it's white, so it's a traditional BMW thing as well. They like to illuminate their panels in orange at night, but the instrument cluster there is in white, however. Okay guys, so right now I'm riding shotgun still. I've driven the whole length of LDP, and well, first, so the thing is that we have made a few observations. One, sound insulation, yeah, I'm not sure if the microphone can pick it up, but it's quite a bit of tire roar and also a bit of wind noise coming through the A pillars. My wife also observed that the ride is rather firm, as I mentioned earlier. The steering is light, so it's good for navigating in tight spots. But even for her, she found that the high-speed stability, all right, is not quite as assuring as our E39. So she feels that overall this car it's a noticeably much lighter car than both the E39 and the S-Max that she has grown accustomed to driving. Okay guys, so parting thoughts on the 2 Series Gran Coupe. This is a car that, to be frank, holds very little appeal to traditional BMW owners. The way it drives, the way it's designed, it's all these are. This car exudes unfamiliar sensations to those of us accustomed to what BMW has traditionally had to offer. Perhaps that's the rationale behind it. This car is meant to open up the appeal of BMW to a new demographic of audience. Because let's put it this way, people like me, traditional BMW owners, we will always stick with the likes of the 3 Series, the 5 Series and all that. This is meant for A, a new generation of buyers, okay, or B, existing buyers who probably buy one of these for their wives, for their kids. So I can see the rationale behind this. Perhaps this car is meant to attract new people to walk into BMW showrooms, people who previously would not have considered the BMW brand. But in all honesty, even if you have went to the showroom looking for this, you're really better off at casting your glances at, say, a 320i instead.